This is the Mondays with Mark, thevegastourist.com podcast, episode number 4. We made it to number 4. Hit it, Carl. Do you love stories about old Vegas? Do you want to know more about the Imperial Palace Auto Collection, how it started, how it ended, why, what happened to the cars? Stories like that. This is the podcast for you. Today, I talked to John Workman. He was the assistant curator of the Imperial Palace Car Collection, and we get into the whole story, including what happened to the infamous Hitler auto cars. Okay, so now the original conversation went 2 hours and 45 minutes. I chopped it down to just under 2 hours. So pardon the edits. If you are interested in the whole 2 hour and 45 minute conversation, I will link it in the show notes below. Otherwise, here is my conversation with John Workman. How you doing?
I am doing fine, and yourself, sir?
All right, good. Okay, see if I can figure this out.
I know sometimes it's frustrating.
Yeah, technology. What can I say?
Well, I think I'm the only person who can still pull out a real film camera anymore. Go to work, I've got an old Canon A1 that I used on the job for years.
Oh, God.
And I'm still dragging it around. So it's a lot of fun.
So you're
now we're where we need to be. We went way out into the desert.
Way out in the boonies.
Yeah, and bought a bunch of land so nobody could move in next door to me because my wife knows I'm eccentric. Look behind me, I'm eccentric. and there, I want to start with that. We got to give all credit to me being here to my wife, who accepts my lunacy for what it is, the collecting problem. We all have the sickness. I have a real sickness for the collecting.
It's not okay, maybe. Okay. Maybe
you should have met my uncle. He had the sickness. Yeah. Here, let me see if I can back up a little bit and bear with me. I'm wearing a headphone as well because I don't hear well. Alice Cooper blew me away in the 90s, early 90s. Oh, no. 7 rows back at the Aladdin Theater for the Performing Arts. And just and blew my ears away, and I don't hear no more in one ear, and I had to have brain surgery because of it and all this other crap. It's just stupid. Well, it was a great concert, though. I went to work, for Ralph. You couldn't mess up in public, no matter whether you were on or off work. You messed up off work and being in a public position for the hotel, you still could get slammed. You could get the bye-bye slip. Well, we don't need you. Thank you. Next. Well, actually, It's funny because the first 6 months I was there, Ralph wanted me fired.
Really?
Yeah. I parked a car in the wrong place, and my manager at the time, she had told me, do this. And of course, I'm young. I'm there 6 months. I'm 22 years old. So, and so I'm just doing what I'm told. And it was flood time. Okay, I didn't know. Nobody came up to the auto collection and said it's flood time. Nobody told us.
Yeah.
So, and so Ralph was out prowling the property as he always did. When those things started happening, he wanted to see what was going on in the property because he knew what was coming.
Right.
You had to get set up for the floods when they came through on the palace. Anybody who knows the Imperial Palace knows the floods.
Yep.
Right. So, so I parked this car. We were moving cars, and I had parked a car underneath in a place where it got washed away and blah, blah, blah. And he got on the radio and like, who the hell, blah, blah, blah. I want them. And I kind of got hit out up in the collection dusting cars for the rest of the day until it was explained that it wasn't his fault. He just did what he was told. And, but after that, I never really had any issue with Ralph. I very rarely seen him myself, even for the number of years I was there, I very rarely seen him.
He owned the place, huh?
Yeah, well, but he was everywhere. Ralph was nowhere and everywhere at once.
He seemed like a very hands-on guy.
Yeah, he was absolutely yes.
Okay.
There wasn't nothing Ralph couldn't do in his own hotel that he could kick you off the job and do himself. He was a contractor. I mean, that's where he started, back in North Dakota. He was a contractor. And he came out here, he came out to Vegas in 59 to start working for the test site, building stuff out there. Then he built North Las Vegas. In fact, a bunch of streets are down there. Street and Betty Street and Ingolstadt Road and blah, 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 right? Yeah, so everyone knows those stories.
Well, I watched that video with Chris and Dirty Jobs guy.
Mike Rowe. Yes. Yeah.
You know, and she explained that about her dad is that, you know, he didn't have any hobbies because he couldn't understand what a hobby was.
Business was hobby for him. That was his life. He enjoyed business. And he, you know, a lot of people think Imperial Palace, Ralph Ingolstadt, and that was it. Ralph went far, 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 far beyond Las Vegas and he had like a major company in every state in the union at one time. You know, and that was just him. He was an entrepreneur. He, you know, he piggybacked off what he did with Howard Hughes.
See, I want to get into that part.
I don't know a whole bunch about it. I mean, I can give you the story that everybody pretty much knows, but you know, it was
okay. Hold on. I get this a lot. Well, everyone knows that. No, we don't.
Yeah, they're assumptions, right? We all know that one, right? No. Well, I mean, I should say it's well documented.
Okay.
I mean, it's on record at the, you know, if you can go, I'm pretty sure it's online. The deed deal and all that, you know, like you can go online to the Clark County Assessor's office and find any deed, right?
On what? On what?
Oh, the sale of the North Las Vegas airport.
Yes. Okay. All right.
Yes. He bought the North Las Vegas airport from Ralph.
Yeah.
And I think Ralph's big deal is he wanted to be a millionaire before he was 30, and he beat that.
He did that.
Yeah, he did that with that deal with Hughes. And then he moved on to buy what became the Klondike out there on the end of the strip at the time. Right. That was his first hotel that he opened up. In fact, I think Chris mentions working at that hotel
as a maid.
Yeah, as a maid when she was a kid. Yeah. There's another funny one. When you speak of Chris, when I first started to work there, I used to wash Ralph and Betty's car for them in their executive garage. And I had to go down there and wash them by hand.
Yeah. Okay.
And one day, another door opens up to the garage. A third door opens up and a red little car backs in. This young girl, about my age, maybe a year or two older than me, pops out of the car. While you're down here, clean my car. I'm new on the job. I said, you'll need to talk to my boss about that. Dude, if looks oh my goodness. Like I'm not going to step on anybody's toes. And I think she ended up respecting me for that because I didn't just do what I was told by somebody I didn't know who it was.
Right.
Because at the time when I walked in, you know, they had a book that you got and it said executives you should know. And it had their picture, you know, general manager Ed Crispell, you know, head of this department or head of that department. Okay. And like I said, it had pictures of Ed Crispell, general manager, department head, so that if you encountered a department head, you should, you know, treat accordingly.
Right.
Which I had no problem with. But if you don't know who the person is, you got to refer back to your chief. And so you need to talk to my boss before I can do that because I'm down here to do these two cars. And she just walked out.
Well, in that interview with Mike Rowe, she had alluded to that she had a secret weapon that nobody knew who she was.
Well, you know, I guess to a degree, yeah.
You know, she was a woman. You know, she was Ralph's daughter. She's just sitting there. Meanwhile, she's just absorbing everything. You know, and
that's an education you can't buy.
No.
They don't sell educations like that. You can't get them. But to learn at the hand of the master is quite a different experience.
And you know,
and not only that, but to expect to be toe the line.
Yes.
From working from the beginning and to the end, so you know how everything works.
Right. Right. But it's just how she's like, yeah, when her dad died, the vultures came in and figured that, you know, she doesn't know anything, so we'll just, you know.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, and to a degree, I will say some of that is true because of the vastness of Ralph's empire. And I say empire because, I mean, come on, he had two major hotels that he owned outright on his own. not too many guys were doing that in the 2000s.
No.
Ralph died in 2002, but he was still like planning stuff like up to the day he died. He was still moving forward, planning on building stuff and more stuff. And the Engelstad Foundation carried on quite vigorously with all the medical places that are all over Las Vegas now.
Yeah.
That's you learn, even myself, I should say, working there, I learned lessons from Ralph. When one of them was, do it in-house, do it cheaper.
Yep.
He was one of the last hotels to keep his own print shop.
Really?
Back in the early days, all hotels had their own print shops.
Right.
To put out flyers and menus and blah, 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 blah. And Ralph was one of the very last ones to keep his print shop running and actually staying up to beat, because I was working with them in the late 90s and in the early 2000s, doing computer work and doing ad work, and working with them, teaching me, my people that I had worked with for years. Now I'm no longer kind of like working for the auto collection at that point. It's the auto collections chain. Yeah. And so, I'll try to spit this in real quick. I'm pretty sure, and I was going over this today to correct my own mind, I'm pretty sure by 98, Ralph knew he had cancer. He'd already known.
Yeah.
All right. So what does he do? He downshifts, bangs a gear, and stomps on the gas pedal and starts doing anything and everything he can get accomplished before he knows he's not, he knows he's got not much time, I guess.
Yeah.
So, and even Chris alluded to that in that interview, Ralph didn't say anything to nobody about it. All I saw was the changes that were going on in my department.
Okay.
Things were going really strange. Like, the Imperial Palace Auto Collection shop in town that did the restorations closed down. And that had been open since the early 80s when they opened the museum, and they closed that down. And so that goes away. And everything that needs to be done is being shipped out to the prison restoration facility. And then cars are starting to be questioned. And I'm implemented to start researching all of internal documents for VIN numbers, sale prices, who they were sold to, when they were purchased, if they got sold and weren't in the collection no more. And the Bradshaw Smiths started showing up a lot, Ralph's accountant.
Yeah.
And Jeff Cooper, who is now one of the poobahs for the executive, or for the Engelstad Foundation. And he's been with Ralph for a long time and now works with Betty and Chris. He was showing up at the auto collection and going out to the prison and going places and they wanted to know where all the locations of the cars were. Fort Worth.
Yeah.
We don't want any, we kind of think it's over here, but we're not sure. And no, we have to be sure.
Yeah.
And so I'm noticing that as because we never really stayed that tight on top of the docks as far as the day-to-day things for me. I did a lot of photography and I moved a lot of cars. And I did a lot of events and blah, 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 blah. We can go on down the road. But as far as like starting to really dig into the master files that were located in Ralph's office, I was going out to Ralph's office on a regular basis, out to his house, and sitting on the floor in the executive office of his house out on Pecos. And I was going through all these folders, and hundreds of folders for cars. And I'm trying to get information on them. And can we prove this is actually this car? Do we have any documentation for this car that is this what's supposed to be this car? And so that's where I started noticing the changes. Why am I spending so much time out at the house?
Yeah.
And why me?
Why you?
Me?
Yeah.
Because I'm a meat and potatoes. I clean up after the elephants and I slap them on the butt and make sure they run around the ring. But I'm not digging into the docks all that much at that point. Photographs, yes. VIN numbers, I did a lot of VIN verification in the early days on the Mercedes collection because nobody had pinned it down. And I worked with a man by the name of Jan Mellon, who is considered to be the expert on pre-war Mercedes in the world. He's written 2 books. Everybody just humana and bows down to him when he says something about a Mercedes. You better believe it. And so I was working with him back and forth, and when he would come to town, and we would spend hours in the back warehouse going over the cars and stuff. So I did a lot of work like that in the early days, but nothing like what started happening like towards 96, 97, no, 97, 98. Things started moving like that. And I'm spending a lot of time getting docs and stuff together. And then all of a sudden, oops, no more Imperial Palace Auto Collection.
Yeah.
2000, that's it. Now it changes to the Auto Collections, plural, at the Imperial Palace. Don't change the branding, only put one letter on the end. Everybody knows the look, everybody knows the colors.
Nobody notices it.
Well, it's not that they don't notice it, but why spend the money?
Yeah. Well, okay. True.
They got a brand out there. Keep burning the brand.
Yeah.
You know, some people were brought in that didn't like the brand. And I dig it because I guess I understand it to a point, because we had so many significant cars in the car world. We were more like a popcorn side attraction that you got a free pass to and a drink on the way out the casino than we were like, you know, I don't know if you ever seen the Nethercutt Museum, you know,
No.
it's pink and black marble everywhere. When Ken Behring built the Blackhawk Museum up in Danville, California, mirrors and black marble everywhere. We had gravel on the floor, fluorescent lighting running down the ceiling.
It was a warehouse.
And well, I mean, it was air conditioned and kept warm, and it was nice, and there was carpet on the floor, you know, and stuff. But you know, it was still not like you know, you're not walking into a Carnegie Hall or nothing. You're walking into a car collection. And we moved cars in and out all the time. Keep it fresh. Fresh, keep it fresh. Because you had to go from the front of the hotel all the way through the casino, all the way through the shopping arcade, and all the way to the back of the hotel and get on an elevator to come up the auto collection. So we give free passes out in front of the hotel. Come on in. As you're going through, feel free to stop. But here's a free pass.
I always like that when I have a guest that, you know, this is their second, third, maybe fourth time to Vegas, and they're like, why do they put it in back? Because
like
you walk through the casino. Yep.
It's just like the milk in the grocery store. Yeah, even right down to the structure of the inside, like the carpet. They don't want you standing in certain places, so carpet has got crazy patterns on it, right?
Right.
That's to keep you moving off of that part of the carpet. They want you in other parts of the hotel, not standing in the aisles where everybody's got to go to and from.
I have always said that if you wanted a marketing degree, work in a casino. They know how to market.
Oh, well, I mean, they did. I don't know about anymore.
No.
You know, and I haven't been home in a long time, and I call Las Vegas home.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
I did see your video with you going down the strip in your little car.
Yeah.
In the little Zook thing or whatever it was. Yeah. That was great. I'm very all for those.
Definitely.
For the strip, that would be fabulous.
Yes.
It could make them more money if they do it right. It could make them more money if they do it right. Yeah.
As a tour guide, I'm going, oh, I'm so screwed. I'm so screwed.
And nobody wants
go out to Hoover Dam. Yeah. You know, I don't need a tour guide. You know.
Well, I don't necessarily say that it should take care of that facilitation, but from hotel to hotel, on the strip, can't be a better way. Can't be a better way. If you want to go from the Sahara or whatever it's called now, I don't know what it is
Sahara.
these days.
Yeah.
Okay. From the Sahara, let's say up to the MGM, you just tell the little car, Sahara to MGM, thank you, and book, and you're gone, and it drops you off, and it's kind of like less service, but with the personalization and the flexibility of a personal car.
So you haven't seen the Vegas Loop then, the underground one?
I've heard about it. You know, I guess that's Elon's deal, right?
Yep.
Is that?
Yep.
Am I correct? Okay, yeah. I don't know a lot about it. I've heard about it. I have not seen it. I haven't been home, and I don't remember. The end result is that, okay, where the car comes up, you get in, and you know it's got a list of the hotels. You push a button, and you go back into the tunnel, and you come out at that hotel. Like the vacuum tubes at the bank.
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
Well, I mean, the way you describe it, yeah, that's it. The vacuum tubes at the bank. And is it functioning? Does it work here? Or
Yeah, well, they started it out at the convention center because the convention center is 4 million square feet now. And then it goes to Resorts World, which sits where the Stardust used to sit. It goes to the Westgate, which was the International.
Right. That one I remember.
Yeah. Goes to the Encore. In the end, it's going to go all the way down by the airport, the stadium, downtown. It's going to have like 68 stations. So,
wow.
Yeah.
And if it works and if it functions properly, it's the best way to do it. Get the traffic off of the strip.
Yeah.
Leave it for foot traffic.
Yeah.
The more time they spend on their feet, the more time they're spending money. I'm sorry. It's a bad habit that somebody, I don't know who he is, maybe a guy I worked for, kind of instilled in me. Don't stop the flow.
Right.
Don't stop the flow. Nothing stops the flow.
Well,
I mean, back in the day, if you got into an argument in the pit on the floor in the casino, you got fired. You didn't argue on the floor in the casino pit. You took it back into the back room, into the dealer's lounge, wherever it might be you need to go, but you get it off the floor and you don't do it in front of the people. They don't want it to be around it.
No.
So you learn all that stuff real quick.
Tell you what, how about if we start with who are you?
Oh, yeah, we get back to that and you can cut all this together later, right? We got into our own conversation, right? It happens. My name is John Workman. Who am I? I'm somebody, I guess, but I'm really nobody that anybody knows. But just like 100 other guys, there's 100 other guys just like me in other places. A lot of the guys I was with are pretty much gone these days. But I was the assistant curator of the Imperial Palace Auto Collection, and I worked there from 19.
When it was
during its
prime,
seriously active. Yeah. I mean, I was there it opened in 81. I went to work there in 85 and I closed the doors on the museum itself. So I was there all but 4 years of the museum existence. Yeah. Ralph's museum. Yeah. I mean, if you look over here behind me, I'm pretty sure I'm pointing to a piece over there. That's a piece that I did personally. I used to sit in front of the car in the back warehouse and sketch it and draw it and sketch it and draw it and count things and count spokes and count lines and do this, that. And that's a final complete technical drawing and some painting overlays of the Mercedes-Benz 500K Special Roadster. And that car, it was one of the strangest stories that ever came out to it because it sold many, many years later and it was headed back to Germany. And when it went back to Germany, it was seized by the German police and it went back to the original owner, that the family who bought it in 1935.
Ooh.
I think he paid $4.5 million at an R&M auction for the car. And then when it got back to Germany, they seized the car and gave it back to the family. And that was that.
Thank you. Thank you for playing the game.
Yeah, it's all over for that, right? So,
Okay, so...
Well, you got a little place called Opportunity Village in Las Vegas, right?
Yeah.
Just say thank you, Ralph.
Yeah.
Thank you, Betty.
That was his,
without their support in the early days, it would have never made it.
Yeah.
Because they supported that really early on in Las Vegas. Because you got to remember, Ralph gets there in 59. He brings Betty and Chris out in, I think, 60 or 61 to move out permanently into Las Vegas. And then he kicks it into gear. He becomes Las Vegas. And he becomes one of the guys who literally puts the crews on the ground to build the city.
Yeah. Really?
He's the guy who literally put the guys on the ground, paid them their wages, paid their insurances, put roofs over their head, and built the city.
Well, we were talking about the North Las Vegas airport and the hangar owners were having a meeting one time, and I was up there. They had asked me to do some marketing for them, so I wanted to meet them. And again, these guys go back to your era. they talked about Howard and how Howard did this and Howard did that. And I went, excuse me, Howard is in
Howard is in
Hughes.
Howard Hughes.
And they all looked at me and went, yeah.
If anyone has interest in Howard Hughes, the best book to read is Empire. Get your hands on it. It's like 800 pages, and I hate to read books.
What is it?
It's called Empire.
Oh, okay.
A Howard Hughes book. It's called Empire. The man, the madness, the legend. I think that's the whole title of it. Two guys wrote this. It's probably the most comprehensive, accurate account of Howard Hughes's life that I know of. My experience about Howard Hughes is I got a lot of his collectible stuff, like from the Hughes Air West stuff, because my uncle worked for Hughes Air West when it was Bonanza Airlines back in the day. In fact, he actually met Howard Hughes twice out on the tarmac out at McCarran when it was small field back in the late 50s. Yeah, he had a couple conversations with him about planes and didn't even know who he was talking to.
Some old guy.
Yeah, well, he was like, he got back into where they worked, and they were, and the guy says, you know who you were talking to, Kerry? And he's like, no, we were talking about new planes. And he said, well, that was Howard Hughes. He said, oh, okay. I didn't know. We were just talking about the new plane he said we were just talking about the new plane. And just a little reference. I talk about my uncle, Kerry Burke. Las Vegas people, the collectors and Las Vegas historians, they all know Kerry Burke. He's well documented at the university in their special collections. And he's probably one of the foremost guys who knew about old Las Vegas. He got there in like 45.
I actually looked him up, and
my uncle was quite the guy. Yeah. He had the stories. I don't have no stories, dude. I'm a punk kid. He had the stories, and he just passed away here recently. I think it was earlier this year. And I don't know why I don't know the date it was, but he recently just passed away. And with him, Las Vegas don't really realize a historical resource that they lost because they didn't get enough from him that they could have. Because he would have been willing to give them more, but I don't think anybody really thought too much about it. And unfortunately, that's a way with a lot of those older guys that were his age. My uncle was 80, I think 88 when he passed here.
Yeah.
The new generation, the young kids, and I'm going to say young, and I'm going to say 35 and below, they want to know the history, but they don't want to get it that way. They don't seem to want to get that firsthand history. They would rather like dig in somewhere and just bury themselves on a website somewhere and grab up the information.
Yeah.
And then they think they're getting some factual accounts, and a lot of it is, but a lot of it's not.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree on that. Saw an interview somewhere online with Bugsy Siegel's daughter.
Oh, man.
I saw it somewhere online. I don't remember where the hell I saw it. But she was talking about all the property where you're talking about that was out behind the Flamingo in the day, before the Maxim the Maxim and all that, and Bourbon Street and all that. And she was saying, well, I used to own that because my dad left it to me, but I got swindled out of it by people who told me I should sell it right then and do this and get the money and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And I'm going, if she would have had that land at the time she was interviewed, she would have been everything in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And with that kind of, that property and that position, there would have been no stopping her. She could have done whatever she wanted to. But, people intervene. Somebody says, do this, do that, and stuff happens.
What was your first job?
In Las Vegas?
Yeah.
Legit or side?
Okay, both.
My first legit job, I worked out on the Strip. I went to work at Jack Dennison's Copper Cart when I was 12.
Copper what?
I was a dishwasher.
Oh, okay. Jack
Dennison's Copper Cart, right? The Copper Cart?
Yes, okay.
It was right there in front of it used to be in front of there where the pepper mill and that La Concha, right? That was Jack Dennison's Copper Cart.
Okay.
I started working there when I was 12. And I worked, the late shift. It is nighttime, and I'm like 12 years old working out on the Strip. I got my health card. I got my work permit because my mom signed for it, and I'm out on the Strip, and I'm, free food, free soda pop, all you can drink, and a paycheck. What kind of job? What kind of kid don't want that job? at 12 years old.
Okay. Okay. At that point, did you begin to realize this is not normal in any other city?
No, because
Okay.
I had never had any exposure to any other city. 4 weeks
Okay.
old, I land in Vegas, and I don't know nothing but Vegas. I've
Okay.
never been to Disneyland. I've never been to the Grand Canyon. My parents didn't drive, so we didn't get to go nowhere. We lived in Las Vegas.
And Vegas was the whole world.
Well, I mean, we're like somebody in New York who never moved out of the Bronx.
Mm-hmm.
I lived in Las Vegas. I didn't know nothing but Las Vegas. That was it. Eldorado parades and the JC State Fair at the convention center over at the Rotunda. I saw the Harlem Globetrotters at the Rotunda. My Uncle Kerry took us there back in the day. Yeah.
Cool.
I didn't start really thinking about things like that. I mean, maybe till I was maybe 14, started getting into high school. I went to work for a joint over on Twain called the Food Factory.
Okay.
And a girl that I went to school with that I rode the bus on, I went to Votech and I lived all the way out by the Texas. And but I got a job at the Food Factory from the girl I rode the bus with.
Okay.
Food Factory.
When people outside of Vegas, when kids are starting in high school, your parents are like pointing you towards college. You know, Vegas has the worst educational system on God's green earth. And
They absolutely they do now. They didn't.
Okay. But
when I was growing up as a kid going to school there, they didn't.
well, I point at, your era.
Okay.
Because you didn't need a college education to throw dice.
No.
And in Vegas pre-2005, a guy parking cars could make a nice living, buy a house in Vegas, you know, could be dumb as a box of rocks, but as long as he could park a car, he was making $80,000 a year.
Yeah. Between his pay and his tips, I was doing okay.
Yeah. So the idea of I got to go to college never entered these people's mind because they didn't, there's no reason to. No,
not when you can earn as much, and that's kind of why I dropped out of high school. I was going to Votech, and I was in my junior year, and I was making more than the teachers who were teaching me, and what they weren't teaching me wasn't what I was there to learn about. And it was like, I make more money than you, and you're not teaching me what I came here for, because Votech had changed when I went there. From my sophomore to my junior year, it quit being a vocational school and turned into a city high school, as far as I'm concerned. And it went rogue. So and I went, so why am I listening to you anymore? And I kind of messed up, because had I graduated, I would have been grandfathered into my father's union, and I would have went under apprenticeship under a master carpenter instantaneously with a front of the line golden Charlie ticket.
Yep.
Go be a carpenter. But roads lead us. I ran away from home the day I turned 18. In Vegas, I split. I was gone.
Okay. So how did you end up at the Imperial Palace?
Okay. I leave home at 18. As I just said, I split, and like 4 years later, I come back to town. I'd had enough of being out in the big bad world and didn't like what I was really doing. Well, I was doing something really cool for a while, and then I went to work for another company, and it was like, this is a drag. I can do this back in Las Vegas or do something better, because I know people there at least. So I left. I was in Houston, Texas. And so I moved back to Vegas, and I was putzling around, and I got a job down at the Sun newspaper in the mailroom. Oh my goodness. There was an awakening. Oh my, everybody was drunk or stoned, and I don't know how the paper ever made it to the front porch step. Oh my Lord, it was insane. I got married at 3:00 in the morning when we got off a shift in my work clothes, dude. Are you kidding? What a freak zone. And I got into this. I got one of the printers got me the job as a Goomba deal, right? Yeah, this is one of my guys' kids. Give him a job. And so I went to work in the mail, what they call the mailroom, where you fold the newspapers and you put in the inserts and you get it ready to go out the door to the people who are going to distribute it, right? lunchtime was down at the Roaring Twenties, which it was called back then, down on Highland, right? Just before you get to Charleston. It was called Highland back, or still then. I don't know. It may have been MLK by then. There's this little joint called the Roaring Twenties. And that's where lunch was held. Everybody from the mailroom went down to the Roaring Twenties for lunch at, 9:00 at night. Because the shift ended at like 3:00 in the morning or some garbage. It was just crazy. Oh, yeah, it was insane. So I worked that for a little while, and I got married to this broad who worked in there, and things went upside down. And I went into the boss. I said, y'all are crazy. She's crazy. You guys are crazy, and I got to go. And I quit, and I spent about 6 months working on cars with my dad's buddies and stuff, and hanging out in the pub late at night on Saturdays and Friday nights with my dad's old guys. I used to loaf at Twin Lakes Liquor over on Rancho in Washington. I'm 22 years old at that time. Now I'm loafing with the guys that are like 60 and 65.
Yep.
And we're closing it down and opening it up again in the morning. I remember waking up and boozing that place. But so the old man gets tired of it one morning. He's just tired of me laying on the couch and getting up to do nothing but play with cars and go to the pub. He says, boy, time to go get a job. And I went to one of those employment agencies they had back in those days. This is, 1985. And this happens in a short period of time. I come home in March of 85, and by December of 85, I've already gone through a wife and gone through the craziness down at the Sun newspaper, got my goofed off, and now in December, I go to this employment agency, and they send me out to a flower shop, and I do an interview, and then I go to the Imperial Palace, and I go up there to interview for the position as a car duster. That was my original position. I was called, here, I think I have it. Here it is. I'm not going to be funny with you. I'm going to show you living proof. Here it is, brother. This is one of the ostrich feather car dusters that we used to use to dust the cars at the collection when I first came to work there. These ruined car paint jobs, by the way, they really suck. They put nice little cat scratches all over the car, man. It's terrible. But this is what was insisted upon that I use when I first came to work there. And so I was classified as a houseman under the housekeeping header. I didn't work for the auto collections, really. I was a housekeeping person. And I dusted cars. I was there for about a week. They handed me the keys to the castle, and they said, we'll see you on Monday morning. Keep things clean. And then, okay. You got it. So, yeah, that was kind of where I started. I was the first of the new car dusters that got brought in because one of they had two car dusters before I came to work there. One girl, she quit, and another guy upset Betty Engelstad in the grocery store, and he had to go.
Okay. Well, was Betty involved? Was she hands-on, or was she just
in the hotel?
Yeah.
No, Betty spent her time for the church.
Okay.
Betty, I maybe I'm speaking out of school here, and I might be putting words in her mouth, but I think that she appreciated me because there were several times when there were incidents when she was out in the world with her automobile and it would not work for her, that she called me personally in the auto collection and said, John, please come and get my car, and somebody else is already on their way to come get me.
Okay.
Yeah, and she knew who I was, and she knew that I was I was just a kid, I was a young guy, and I was a hard worker, that was my deal. My old man had made me into a hard worker, and I don't think they'd really had anybody up there that wanted to work. That's just my opinion, The people I saw that were going out the door were kind of scary.
How did the car collection start? Do you know?
Yeah, I can give you the general description. I wasn't there, of course. Like I said, I started in 85 and the collection opened in 81. Ralph had started already collecting cars. He had a few cars. He had bought a Ford, and that's what the collection was supposed to be originally. It was supposed to be an all Ford museum.
Oh, okay.
And actually, there was a guy, I'm glad you bring this up. There was a gentleman by the name of Dick Schatzwell. And he was Dick Schatzwell. He was Ralph's guy for the auto collection. He was the guy who was overseeing the day-to-day and when they put it together in 81 and all that. because that was just the top of the parking garage. If you back before that was done, if you drove up to the top of the parking garage, you could see the city.
Right.
Ralph walled it in, and then he built the auto collection up there. So it opens in 81. He's got a guy, like I said, he's got a guy by the name of Dick Schatzwell running it up to about 84. They get involved. Ralph gets involved with a sale over in California called Movie World, Cars of the Stars, and Pacific Auto Rental.
Okay.
And it's a family by the name of the Bruckers. And they were famous in Hollywood for every car that was in film from like the 30s forward. They provided the car. They provided props. They had I remember going down there and picking up the car from the Great Race, the Hannibal car that went up and down and with this corkscrew and all that. I went down there to their old orange packing crate that they owned, the factory they owned where they kept cars. They kept them down in the basement of the orange packing crate building. And I went down there to pick up that car for some reason, blah, 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 blah. But Ralph got involved in that somehow in 84, or maybe early 85. He got involved with that. They also did the Steve McQueen auction, who Chris actually did. Chris was the ramrod on the Steve McQueen auction in 84 when they did that. And from what I understand, that was Steve McQueen's cousin. I guess he lived out in Henderson or Boulder City at the time, and somehow he knew about
when Henderson was way out there.
Yeah, when Henderson was out. Yeah, when we used to go out there and cause trouble and then come back to Las Vegas, right? So yeah, Chris ramrodded the McQueen sale, and that was very successful, of course. And then they did that other sale, and in 84, he finds this guy named Richie Klein at an auction. And Richie Klein becomes the executive administrator of the auto collection. They hire a guy by the name of Joe Dickey to open up the restoration shop over at Ralph's. Ralph, I don't know if you know, owned Location 1. Big industrial complex. So, big industrial complex over on Valley View. From Valley View to DI, up to, Penwood or whatever it is.
Okay.
And, this huge, it's the Blue Ox on Valley View.
Got it.
Seen the Blue Ox. Okay.
Yep.
Well, all those buildings, that was Ralph. He owned all that, and he was renting them out, leasing the buildings out. That's what Ralph does. He builds buildings and leases them out and makes money. Okay. So they put the restoration shop over there. This guy, Joe Dickey's hired to run the restoration shop. Richie Klein's brought in to be the executive administrator of the auto collection. And they start going to the Harris sales.
Ooh.
Okay, because the
Up in
Harris
Reno.
sales go. I think they're 84 through 86, and I might be wrong on those dates, Mark. So bear with me. I could get out my catalogs and I can whip it out of my computer, but we won't. No need for the conversation. They're buying a lot. Ralph buys a lot of supercars, from the sale up there, because he's got the money.
Yeah.
By then, Ralph's got the money, and and in those days, those cars weren't really bringing like what we know, big money,
right?
But they were still very expensive cars. I mean, he bought a Mitchell, I think, for like $30,000 back then, and that was a pretty expensive price for an open touring car of that year. And this is just a car thing. But anyway, so they go on a buying spree up there, and they just, they clean house up at Harris. They're taking cars right and left. And I remember them coming in, because they were starting to come in as I came in. Richie goes to work for him in 84. They start doing the Harris auction. A lot of cars are being bought. They're going to other auctions around the country. And I come in December of 85. So all these cars start pouring in. We're just getting cars 10, 20, 30, 40 at a time. He's buying entire collections to get 3 cars. So now what do you do? You got all these surplus cars that aren't like maybe museum grade, restoration required. Boy, a lot of cars get sold at these auctions. A lot of money. Well, what the hell? Why don't we just open our own auction company? So in 1987, under Ralph's money, because everything and this is one thing I want to stress real quick then. Without Ralph's money and Ralph's want, there is nothing. And I used to try to tell this to the guys that I worked with. Our job hinges on a man's hobby. He could start collecting peanut butter tomorrow, and you and I don't have a job.
Yeah.
So always keep that in mind and be grateful that we get to work on a pretty cool deal. We don't have to take no orders from nobody most of the time. We're pretty much left to being adults and handling the job at hand. We get paid well. And
you're what, 25 years old?
I'm 22, 23, 24 years old. Yeah, when I'm starting there, absolutely. And
you're driving these cars. God.
Oh, yeah, and I have no idea, dude. The only reason I'm good at it is because I had a stick when I was a kid. I had a Mustang. And I had a 3 on the floor, so I knew how to drive a stick and clutch and all that garbage. So, but let me tell you what, get into your first Model T and don't know what you're doing. I damn near drove. My first driving lesson was on the 4th floor of the parking garage and almost went through one of the barriers at the then went off the end of the garage.
And
that's a quick lesson how to drive a Model T.
And that's not a large parking garage.
Well, I
remember parking my car up there, and I'm like, oh God, no! Really tight up there.
Oh yeah, to the inch on the the architecture plan.
Yep.
No more than that. But I actually did drive an 18-ton dual-tracked troop carrier through the parking garage many times. Got stuck with it many times in the parking garage. It goes on and on about that. That thing was a monster. Yeah, we had to brace up underneath the floor where it sat in the back warehouse so that it wouldn't, start falling through.
Yeah.
In fact, when PetCon blew up, we were all standing up in the offices of the auto collection, and we all took off running. Son of a bitch, the troop carrier went through the floor. It finally went. We're running like crazy. We get back there, and it's just sitting there. Nothing's wrong. It's dead still in the warehouse. Nothing going on. Oh,
is out here in Henderson, though.
Oh, really? You
felt it all the way.
Oh, yeah, dude. Yeah. Real bad.
Wow.
It may, because we're on the 5th floor, so things moved. Yeah. Well, in fact.
Okay, but I gotta remember, you're talking 30 years ago, and there really wasn't much out there.
No, not like that. Yeah. So the concussion, the wave.
So the concussion.
There wasn't. There was nothing to stop it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was like an atom bomb going off out there. It was ridiculous. Yeah. Everybody felt that one. Okay, I'm going to give you here one of those ones that you told me you always get from people you interview. Okay. I have a good story about Teddy Benion's Rolls-Royce limousine, but we won't get to it because if my wife watches this, she might not like it. We weren't together then, of course, but it's a bad story.
So you're working for Ralph, and Ralph's got, I was told when he died that he had over 100 different businesses.
Oh yeah, easily. Probably more. Like I told you, dude, he was full when he found out cancer, he hit, like I said, he downshifted gear and banged that son of a bitch and stomped on the gas pedal and said, I'm going to do everything I can before I go. And he started doing stuff.
He did. Chris had said that he, we keep coming back to this. He saw the vision, or a vision, like she said, he wasn't into racing, but he saw Vegas could use a racetrack.
Well, do the homework, figure it out, look at the numbers, go to the bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody profited from it, right? The casinos, everybody's going to profit from it. Not just the guy who builds it, but the whole city's going to profit from this. And of course, it's another feather in his architectural cap. Look one more thing I built. I built this over here. I built that over there. I build. That's what I do. I build. That was Ralph. He was a builder. And a lot of stuff that he would build, he would, like I said, he would either lease it out. When he was done building it, it got leased out, or he sold it. All those are a bunch of warehouses down Sunset, like off of Escondido and all that stuff back in there, right? Along where he built all those warehouses. The big white buildings with the black stripes around them, those are all Ralph's buildings. He built all that. Yeah. And then he started because in 2000 he started some stuff on the other side of the strip, probably just after Harmon, but on the other side of the strip and over up past the tracks and stuff. He started building warehouses over there because we started storing cars over there for a while. We used to have to run over there and take pictures. That was when we first started getting into using digital photography for the events and for the collection and stuff. And I was spearheading that deal. And I was going over to the warehouses to take pictures of the cars for the auctions and stuff. I remember we were using one whole floppy for a picture, one picture per floppy.
God, I remember those days. Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, build. So as far as businesses, yeah, I would probably say that's a low figure.
Wow.
I would honestly think that would be a low figure. I would think he would probably had more going on than that.
Well,
the hotel was his baby.
Yeah. I never stayed there, but I
lived there.
Okay.
Yeah, he lived there most of the time. He owned the entire 19th floor was his house.
The whole floor?
Yeah, he had like 6 or 7 living rooms and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. You know, it went on and on and on.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's where him and Betty lived. I mean, I don't know how legal that was. And back in the day, I don't think nobody gave a damn.
No.
But Ralph wanted to be where his business was. That was his flagship. His flagship. Well, you know, Ralph got up usually around 9 o'clock in the morning and started his day. And by 5 o'clock, he was having final meetings with department heads one-on-one. Mm-hmm. And then he would go lay down for a while and take a nap from like maybe 9 o'clock to 11 or 12, and then back out on the casino floor.
Yeah, okay.
He spent nights on the casino floor watching the floor.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I know that for a fact because I seen him. I mean, we used to take cars in and out of the casino every once in a while. They'd put a car on display out in the casino, you know, just as a come get, you know. Mm-hmm. That's one of the strangest looks you'll ever get. Driving a car through the middle of a casino at 4:30 in the morning and some drunk's hanging on a poker machine and he looks back and you wave at him and smile and keep driving through the casino. And they just about fall out of their stool. Yeah, we used to drive cars regularly through the casino in the morning.
When I used to come to Vegas for conventions, I would see something that, for whatever reason, didn't make sense on why it was happening. Okay. And I'd ask the bellman or valet guy, and they'd look at me and goes, "It's Vegas."
That's what happens.
To me, it wasn't an answer. Now that I live here, it's an answer.
You understand? You understand?
Totally.
It's just what goes, whatever it takes to put the show on.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, too many times. too many times. Get the duct tape, get some chicken wire, and go. I mean, during the auctions, something would gum up or something and couldn't get fuel to it. Strap a 5-gallon gas can inside the fender on the big cars. Strap a 5-gallon gas can and run the hose directly inside the carburetor and sit there and just run and it runs. See, it runs. We're having a little issue with it, but she runs. Yeah.
Oh my God. So you got to drive some of the, I guess legends or icons of Vegas. You know, like Steve Wynn, Harry Reid, all those guys. You know.
I used to do mostly politicians. Harry, Aaron Kenny back in the day.
Ooh,
and
okay.
I had to put a stop to her, at least for me driving her. I wouldn't drive her. I drove her in 2 parades and I quit driving for her.
Was she a bad person?
No, well, we all found out that later she was, but anyway, at least through the news anyway, I don't know. And I don't know her personally that well enough. But when I saw her put her children's life in risk to throw candy out to the constituency, John, don't drive for people like that. And I come back to the office and I told my boss, Richie, who, he was my day-to-day boss, said, I won't drive for her no more. And her assistant called me up and asked me why. Because she didn't call me up for that, but she asked me, she wanted to thank me. And she says, but I understand you don't want to drive for us personally anymore. And she says, I don't understand. I said, I really shouldn't get into that with you. It's not my position. I said, I just won't be your driver if you guys use a car. And I drove Oscar in some parades. He probably don't remember me from Adam, because I'm just the guy in the car. I drove the San Diego Chicken out onto the baseball field down at Cashman Field, and I used to do Tourism Week. When they had the Tourism Week, I several times up and down the strip with all the showgirls, and I would have the showgirls on the back of the car, and we'd drive up and down the strip and do stuff like that. So when it came to actually handling the cars out in public, a lot of that was my responsibility to be behind the wheel.
When did it stop being all Ralph's cars? When did he start bringing other people's cars in?
Okay. In early 90s, mid 90s, early to mid 90s.
Okay.
Ralph's starting the track, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's not just building the track. The industrial park is also part of the plan. Okay, you're going to have an industrial park next to a racing facility. Who do you want to be your anchor tenant?
Carroll Shelby.
Give the man a gold star. Ding, 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 ding. Yeah, absolutely. So they start courting Carroll Shelby. In fact, we did the Carroll Shelby historic garage sale in Newport Beach, California in 94. That was Ralph's, the auction company, and that was basically IP crew mostly. Some outside hired hands to do grunt work, but mostly IP guys running the show. But not the administrative part of it. I'm talking about the guys, as you say, boots on the ground. The guys who are out there handling the cars, making sure they're getting displayed right, making sure the cars are getting transported right, doing all of that stuff. And we were taking the lead on all that because Ralph has probably promised Carroll Shelby, hey, we're going to take care of your stuff. My guys are on it. And don't embarrass Ralph in public. Not a good thing to do. Right. So, you do your job and you do it the best you can. You take care of Mr. Shelby's cars.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't say I know Carroll Shelby. Carroll Shelby knew of me.
Okay.
He would come through the collection when we had his personal collection on display in the museum. That was probably the first time that anybody else's cars were on display in the museum, but they weren't for sale. They were there as a part of the, you're going to come in as anchor tenant. We're going to do this. We're going to push this. You're going to be part, we're going to have your cars on display. And they were courting him like you would any client, right? And no harm, no foul there. And so he would come through the collection to come look at his cars. And he always saw me down there and it was, hi, John, taking care of my cars, right? Yes, sir, Mr. Shelby. Always taking care of your cars. I've driven the number 1 Cobra more times than I care to count. I mean, I say that, and it sounds like I say that casually with some kind of arrogance. But at a point, if you don't get that attitude about the cars you're driving, you're going to start making mistakes.
Yeah.
If you're walking on eggshells when you're driving a Bugatti Royale, you're going to make mistakes. You're not going to be paying attention to what you should be paying attention to. I've driven 4 of the 6.
Ooh.
There's only 6 Bugatti Royale to Voyagers that were ever built, and I've driven 4 of the 6, and even guys who own the damn things can't say that. But there's other guys like me. See, there's other guys like me who handle the cars. We're car handlers. That's what we did, You handle the cars for the guys who own them.
And then Ralph created the repair shop up in the prison.
I don't know how that all came about as far as its origins. All I know is that in the early 90s, they got this guy out of out of Phoenix. There's a guy down there used to be down there by the name of Leo Gephardt. He was the Duesenberg guy.
Okay.
He was like Randy Ema is now. I mean, if you know anything about Duesenbergs and you know Randy Ema is Duesenberg. Okay. Well,
Gotta ask you really quick. Sorry.
Okay.
What's a Duesenberg is a freaking tank.
Absolutely, dude. But I burned one out several times. I've lit the back end up, smoked the wheels off of them.
I was going to ask you,
You
what's
betcha,
that
right?
like driving that something that, I mean, those things weigh a couple of tons.
Yeah, I've only had one of those big type cars ever up to any real high speeds. And it was a Maybach, a 1936 Maybach. And we took it out to Red Rock for a shoot with a guy by the name of Ron Quarry from Automobile Quarterly. And he wanted to get some side-by-side action shots. And he says, just go as fast as you can and I'll get my pictures, dude. And we head out the road that that Red Rock back in the day, there wasn't anything out there. So you get on the road and just haul. I got it up to 65 miles an hour. It was pretty damn scary. Yeah, because it just starts rocking. It just starts, going back and forth like this. Even though it's a German car and they were meant to really do those speeds.
Yeah.
At that point in its life, I don't think it was meant to do those speeds anymore. So it was pretty scary, Even the restored cars, these guys spend a lot of money on restoring these cars. And I tell you the truth, they're show kittens. You know what I mean? A show kitten, it gets its ass wiped all the time and its nose wiped all the time, and it doesn't see the light of day much. And once in a while, it gets its engine turned over to make sure it don't seize.
Well, you had sent me that one photo of Ralph's garage, and he has 30 of them parked
at the house.
Yeah,
at his house on Pecos. Yeah, that was all the 770 collections. Those are the Mercedes-Benz 770.
Oh, those, okay, yeah.
And those cars were built from I think 1929 to maybe 42. Most of them were commissioned by the Axis powers during just before the war and during the war for dignitaries. I know the president.
Yeah.
I know one was owned by the president of Turkey, and one was owned by the ambassador to Belgium, and all those cars, and they get referred to, and we'll cut to the chase on it. They get referred to as the Hitler cars, and all that crap. And because there was one car or two cars that he used in parades that were decked out full regalia for what he used them for. The truth of it is most of those cars were pretty sedate, big old boats, man. They're 22 feet long. They're 6 feet wide. They weigh anywhere, and I've weighed them. I had to weigh them when we set up the museum down in Biloxi. We had to know what the weights of the cars were for the boat. Anywhere from 5,000 to 9,000 pounds, So they're big tuna boats, and they ride real nice because they don't do anything but just kind of, they're low riders, They're just smooth along the road. Yeah, they're very nice. But the earlier 770s, like the 31 770 Castagna or the 31 770 Singelfelden, these are jewels. These cars they're pieces of art. They're beautiful. They're not. You can't look at the car and get a bad connotation from it. You got to go, wow. That's all you can do if you even have a liking of cars.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he had actually, I think the collection's number was, we owned 18 770s. Now that's not the entire Mercedes collection. We owned over 100 pre-war Mercedes. So yeah, I would say it was probably the biggest collection of pre-war Mercedes ever assembled then, now, and probably ever will be, because these cars are, they're getting more and more scarce, and they are what they are. There's no more of them going to be made. There's guys that are going to reproduce them. In fact, somebody did a knockoff of the Bugatti Royale de Voyager. It's gorgeous. I actually took the pictures that were used to help build the car. I flew down to Scottsdale and took pictures of the real one. I have pictures of me in front of the car taking pictures of the car, and I sent all those photographs over the pond to somebody who was building a Royale. And I'll tell you what, I saw it when it came to America. It landed on our back porch at the Imperial Palace. So I had to go down and pick it up, and I looked at it and I thought it was a real Royale. I was like, wow,
it was well done.
I know this car. I know lots of these. Well, I don't know. I know these cars. I've handled them. And I'm like, but something, man, it's like, And then I find out, afterwards I found out what I was down there actually taking the pictures for. Yeah. So.
Did you ever have a favorite? or
A favorite
did it kind
car
of
to-
rotate out?
A favorite car, well, yeah, I guess you can think about it that way. My favorite car to drive is always a Model T. They're just such a blast to drive. They're such go-karts. And if you get a speedster that has the special Rahaj, or however it's pronounced, engine in it, and the 2-speed rear end and the gearbox in it, man, you can do 75, 80 miles an hour down the road in one of those little bad boys and just roll all day long and head right out into the desert with it and keep on going. And if it breaks down, if you got a pair of pliers and some water, you're pretty well set.
Yeah.
Yeah, you fix it and you go again. Yeah. So fun-wise, yeah, they're the fun ones to drive. The 500K behind me was one of my favorites, but there was another Mercedes. It's called the Paris Show Coupe, and I believe it's a 1936 or 38. I may be wrong on the year. I know it's one or the other, but I'm not positive on that. It's a full coupe. It's a hard top, and it's real it's got a long nose on it, almost like an Alfa Romeo of same era. Real long nose with the cab on the back end and the spare tire right on the back of the cab built into the body of the car.
Okay.
And in fact, we took it out to Johnny Stewart's Legends Ranch. You know, Johnny Stewart, the guy who did all the Legends in Concert shows on the Strip and his company still goes on. We took that car out in front of his house and did a photo shoot with that car. And I've got some the background and everything is just a fabulous picture with that car. That car is just, to me, is a very nice car. And we had one other, a 47 Delahaye, in like a royal metallic blue, and everything inside the compartment is leather. And it was actually the forerunner to T-Tops. It had a plastic roof in it that came out. This is a 47 Delahaye. Or 37 Delahaye. Yeah, 37 Delahaye. I'm sorry, not 47. Yeah. It has a plexiglass roof for the roof of the car, but like T-tops or a cutout roof. And I think that predates actually Gordon Brurig, Auburn Cord Duesenberg designer. His Tasco, which had T-tops in it. That car is currently at the ACD Museum, but it is mislabeled. And that's probably part of our conversation we'll get into somewhere down the road. It's mislabeled as who donated it. The executive administrator of the auto collection, Richie Klein, is credited with donating the car. And Ralph Ingolstadt is the one who donated that car to the museum. I have documents and records, so. I mean, okay. It's just one. I'm sorry. That's kind of a pet peeve for me. And we got to the Tasco somehow, and then when I say Tasco in my brain, a whole nother script goes off in my mind.
Right.
Because because the Auburn Cord Duesenberg Museum won't correct it.
Okay.
They refuse to correct it.
Before we get into that,
go ahead. I'm good.
How did Ralph get the Hitler cars?
You've heard of the Barrett Jackson sale?
Yeah.
They're pretty famous these days, aren't they?
Yeah.
When you get to big end collections, and I think Big Papa Harrow was the man who started it all, yes. Really.
Yeah.
Right? We had a man by the name of Hagen Stewart, who was the director of the collections. He came to work for us in 87, 88, after the first or second auction. They bring him in. He's got a long time history on the auction circuit with Cruise International.
Okay.
He's got a real good reputation. If you get a deal with Hagen, you're getting a square deal. That has a lot of importance in the car industry on that level. Okay. So they bring him in, and he starts working for us. Hagen had been up there and knew the collection very well, and this is what he explained to me. That's why I related Hagen, because I never saw the collection. I never got to see it. I got to see it as it came into my warehouse.
Okay.
I saw the cars as they were coming into my warehouse, and they were ours now. They didn't belong to Bill Harris no more. They were ours. And but Hagen had told me about going through Harris, and I guess they had like 1,500 cars at one time, and there was just rows and rows and rows of Packards and rows and rows and rows of Cords and rows and rows and rows, and they were all airplane hangars.
Yeah, I've heard the stories.
Big airplane hangars, yeah. So that's me. I know the stories. I have all the catalogs from all the sales, and I've got a lot of information because it pertains going back to our collection, the Imperial Palace Collection, because we ended up buying a lot of those cars. So I use it as history documentation to document cars because I never stopped.
Mhm.
I quit working for the auto collections in 2003, 4 months after Ralph died.
Okay.
I resigned.
Okay.
But I've never stopped. I've never stopped researching the cars. I've never stopped collecting their history. I've never stopped scanning the pictures. I've never stopped. And I don't consider myself a car guy.
Wow.
I really don't. I don't want to get into car conversations with car dudes.
Yeah.
I got a lot of respect for the guy who builds something in his garage with his own hands and takes it out on the weekends and has a little fun with it and doesn't hurt nobody. I got some respect for those guys. But, Tim Allen, Jerry Seinfeld, Fluffy, the comedian, and blah, blah. Yeah, man, don't tell me you're that much of a car guy because I know what you're doing it for. Because you got a bunch of accountants who are telling you how good that works. Please don't insult me.
Yep.
Please leave me alone. And so that's why I don't. That's why I don't get into car conversations with these car gurus. Nobody knows who Randy Ema is unless you know about Duesenbergs and you know Randy Ema. But Randy Ema is the baddest cat in the car collecting world that's still around. But not too many people know about Randy anymore. And Randy don't make the Bella Fagu. He don't go around saying, I'm Randy Ema, look at me, I know everything.
Right.
But he does. But he does. And he don't have to prove it to nobody.
Okay.
So
so the Hitler cars came through.
Well, Tom Barrett was collecting those cars before Ralph got his hands on them. And they were doing their thing down there. Barrett Jackson had been doing their thing for years before, Ralph really got on that. I mean, in fact, we were doing a sale in Monterey up at the Doubletree in the 90s. And Jay Leno come on stage and started making a joke about Tom Barrett and the Hitler cars because a Mercedes had come up onto the block or something. And he's making cracks about Tom Barrett and the Hitler cars. Blah, blah, blah. So, I think that's where Ralph got into those cars particularly, but not so much because of the cars, but because Ralph was a student of history.
Mm-hmm.
Ralph was a big student of history. So, okay, as you said, he don't have no hobbies, but he starts collecting cars and he has a love for history. Put the two together, what are you going to end up with? Historical cars. I don't care, bad, good, whatever tag you want to put on those cars.
Totally agree.
I don't know how you give. I don't know how you give a car a life in the sense of a sentient being, but a car is a car. A car is not a bad thing or a good thing. It's just a car.
well, look at the Bonnie and Clyde car.
What? Yeah, that one. Oh yeah. That's a Bonnie and Clyde car, right? Come on, Mark. You got to know. You've heard stories. You've talked to people. The one out at Whiskey Pete's.
Yeah.
What's his name? Well, what the hell is his name? Pete, whatever his name used to be. The guy who started that all out there.
That
was not the real car, dude. Anyway, that's not the real car. They took that car out in the desert and shot it up with a Thompson and played games with it and then let it rust out in the desert and put it on display in the casino. That was a bunch of crap. Just like, here's another one. Just like that's a bunch of crap. We used to sell pieces. Now, you tell me people, they get all uppity. We used to sell them, and they used to sell good. A little square patch with a whole story, and it was an actual piece of the leather that came from Hitler's car after restoration. And they sold those in the gift shop. Had a whole nice little story, had all the nice, all the nice calligraphy writing and told about the car and told about how the car was restored. And it had a little piece of leather glued to that piece of paper that you could buy, and you could own a piece of the car. I watched the guys used to cut it up in bolts from the shop. They'd cut off a slice and send these to the print shop, Forget about it. It's Vegas, right? There we go. We're back to that's Vegas, right?
Yep.
That's Vegas. So I guess that's how he got into those cars. And then, of course, we're starting to talk about big money. Now, you're not talking necessarily just about the 770s, your 500Ks, your 540Ks, your 400s, 600s,
How many
55 Goings.
How many cars were in the Hitler collection?
Well, let's not call it that. Let's call it the
Okay.
Mercedes collection.
The Mercedes
That's
collection.
what it was, dude. It was a Mercedes collection. And, hey, you and we're going to get beat up enough saying the name enough. We're going to get our problems just because of what's going on in the world.
Especially right, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll call it the Mercedes collection so we can get our conversation through without somebody sticking a finger in our ear.
Yeah. But these were
those
the
particular
actual cars.
Yeah, those cars, there's only one car that was ever in documented history, and I know this from Jan Mellon, the man I told you who wrote the book on Mercedes, pre-war Mercedes. One car that was documented, owned by Adolf Hitler.
Okay.
One 770 was specifically delivered for him. That's it. All the rest of those cars that were built during that time and commissioned were commissioned by the Axis power. And they were, like I said, they were given out to dignitaries. They were given out to heads of states, heads of countries. And they were more like, anybody's doing, I got to grease this guy up to get on my side.
Yeah.
Just like they sent Walt Disney down to South America to try to help with World War II. The story of El Grupo, about Walt Disney and El Grupo, if you know that story.
I've heard.
I'm not a Disney-ophile, don't get me wrong, but that story struck me real hard because the government sent him down to South America to try to keep relations open on that end of the world during World War II, so we would have a foothold down on that end of North America or on the continent, so that if something started coming that way, we would already have allies in place. And he was having union problems at the same time in the studio with all of his animators. Get him out of town. Let somebody else handle it, like Frick handled it for Carnegie. Nothing's new, man. They're all doing the same game, same thing. Get him out of town. Carnegie went to Scotland, and Disney went down to South America, and El Grupo went down there, and they came back with the Three Caballeros.
Yes.
That's where the Three Caballeros was born. That's how that was all born.
If you're ever out in San Francisco, in the Presidio is the Walt Disney Family Museum, and it goes over Walt's life. Okay.
Right.
Nothing to do with Disneyland, Disney World until the very end. And it's funny because how they frame the animator strike, how they framed how Walt and World War II meshed together, and what you just talked about was how do they frame it? A something about like a goodwill mission.
Yes, that's how.
Bringing
it was
Disney down to
an ambassadorship almost.
Yes, that's it.
They were serving as ambassadors of America. Disney is an ambassador of America.
And what I know of World War II, I'm sitting there going, there's something missing there. That story is a little bit longer. Come on.
There's something in the middle.
Yeah.
There's something
missing here,
Yep, and it's El Grupo. El Grupo. And I saw this online somewhere. It was another one of those documentary things I saw, and then it disappeared. And then something like that happened to me. I did a History Channel deal, concept cars that was supposedly the Greta Garbo Cadillac, and I got stuck on camera. This is while we're the auto collections. This is, in 2000, I think this happened. Don has the car, Don Williams of the Blackhawk collection. It's either his car or he's holding it and selling it for somebody. He's a broker. That's what Blackhawk collections did. They were brokers.
Okay.
So they're going to get the car on the History Channel, so it's good publicity. Well, Don wants his son to do the deal. Robbie, the guy you met in the collection when you went there when they closed the place down, the guy that you talked to there, Robbie Williams.
Okay.
Robbie, do this. You got to go do this. Get on air. Won't do it. Robbie, you got to do this. You won't do it. I'm watching Don. I can see him. He's just ready to burst. He's standing there with his kid with his hands up. He's ready to burst. And he breaks away from him and walks over to me with his head down. And he says, John, you got to go on and do this spot with the History Channel. I said, okay, but what about Robbie? He's pressed. He's ready to do this. He says he can't do it. I says, Well, does he understand what this means for us and for him? He's going to, this is going to give him a lot of credibility if he gets up here and does this. Okay, now I find out the whole story's a lie about the car 20 years later. I found out within the last 5 years that car's BS. It wasn't the Greta Garbo car. The Greta Garbo car is almost exactly like it, but it's a different car. And the car that they were trying to pass off as the Greta Garbo car was not, because some guy saw that interview and said something about it, because I was getting fed lines off of the side.
Mm-hmm.
This is the car she drove down famous Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood, and when she would go to premieres and blah, blah, blah. And I'm doing this spiel because I've done it for so long. You just feed me the lines, I'm good.
Yeah.
But I find out 20 years later, that's not the car. And hence why I still keep
the records.
Okay, make a note on that. Got to remember that, because I got pictures of that car from back years before that even happened, So I don't want to come off like bitter and be the bad guy and all that, but you get to that stage, it is a business.
Yes.
Make no mistake about it, because museums die.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how many car museums have died in the last 10 years?
Oh, the last 5 years.
Yeah, they're falling like flies. Even the Nethercut's struggling to survive. This is one of the most beautiful car museums in the world. It's gorgeous. I used to deliver cars down there and would just walk in and be in awe. It was like a little kid drooling. It wasn't because of the cars, it was because of the building.
Mm-hmm.
The inside was just so gorgeous, man. It was reminiscent of a 1930s car salon. The car salons of the era.
Mm-hmm.
That those cars would have actually sat in at the time. So, those are exceptions. You got the Peterson down in LA, and I helped open that to a degree. I ran a bunch of Ralph's cars down there.
I haven't been in there.
I've been in there since I helped them.
Oh.
When they opened up, I haven't been down there since then.
Okay.
I don't get involved with car museums. I don't talk to those guys. I do my own homework.
Okay, let's close out the Mercedes cars, okay?
Okay.
How close to Ralph losing his license was he?
Naming control wise?
Yeah, because of that.
Do you want to talk about the story and how it started? Because it was pretty much a garbage put together by some employees. And it even goes back further than that. It starts with a case against Ralph from a couple that were mugged and raped in their room. That's where it starts.
Okay.
That's how it all came out. That's how the big story came out, and how Ralph was this Hitler-loving guy, and he was holding Nazi birthday parties and blah, blah, blah. Okay. Ralph, did he hold Nazi birthday parties? I can say, yeah, they were that themed because of the cars that they were sitting there, and the murals that were painted behind the cars were of era to go with the cars. So the parties were themed that. As Ralph himself said, in bad taste, sure. Hitler lover? No. Absolutely not, dude. Absolutely not.
Okay, so a couple, what do they get injured or what? And they file a lawsuit?
They get mugged and robbed in their room. Okay?
Okay.
They find some lawyer, and he initially starts out that he wants to sue the hotel for $50,000. Now, if you know anything about Ralph don't like to go to court, but he will go to court. And if he goes to court, he's not going to lose. He'll spend $1 million. He'll spend $1 million to make his point and prove his point right to keep you from getting that 50 grand. You're not going to make him look like an idiot in front of the world because you want 50 grand and you think he's going to fold. Yeah. Ralph didn't fold. No way. Don't bluff Ralph. You'll lose. Somehow, this lawyer, I know he got the names because they were discussed. There were internal executives. He gets to them and starts talking to them outside of normal channels of legalities once things start. They're not happy in their positions, apparently, because they're feeding this lawyer a bunch of information. And all of a sudden, he goes from 50,000 to 5 million. It's all documented. The paperwork's out there. I've read it online. You can read it line by line for the case. You don't have to believe me. Okay. So now he's got, and here I'll give you the people: head of corporate security, head of his entire personnel staff, and several lower management, middle management people, in particular one, the head of the restoration shop. Wonder where he comes in on the plan. The guy who restored the cars that he put in the room with the stuff, where does he come in with the lawyer that's suing Ralph?
Yeah.
Unless he's on, right? So now we've got these three people who have been talked to a lawyer in an ongoing case, that they're still executives within the hotel and they should not be talking to this man. It's in fact, the lawyer, Ralph's lawyers file charges against him and he gets kicked out of the case. And the case goes away. But these employees, bye-bye. You want to do this to the guy who fed you, who gave you the best job you've probably ever had?
Or ever have.
Or will ever have. Well, I know I never heard of the guy ever again, the head of corporate security. I never saw or heard about him ever again. And I dealt with him on a regular basis daily. In fact, Ralph did a lot of health things for his son. This guy, the corporate security person, his son had some physical disabilities.
Okay.
And Ralph was doing this to the doctors. Just make sure he's okay. Just take care of him. And then he turns his back on Ralph because he figures something else is going to get better somewhere. The grass is greener or something. I don't know what drove him to it, but they collectively got on the side of this lawyer in this lawsuit for this couple. And so what are you going to do? We're going to start throwing hand grenades at him. He's got this private this, and he's having these parties that. Now you're smearing his name in the public. Your chances of winning that $5 million case just went from 0 to up. No, you've got some credibility in the public now that he's a no good bastard and he would do these things, right? So they're damaging his credit. They're trying to damage Ralph's reputation so they can win in court. And they got their pound of flesh, but in the end they lost. Ralph paid his fine. He got some restrictions on his gaming license. I know we had to change the displays in the collection, how they were assembled, not necessarily take out the car or anything, but we had to put up some disclaimers and stuff on the display and that,
right.
and all that. And the people who started all the crap just disappeared into the background and were never heard from again. And it was kind of sad. Well, the guy that ran the restoration shop, he actually went to work for Bob Snow down at Main Street Station and was running his restoration shop in Las Vegas. He didn't do that right away. He tried to open his own restoration shop and he rented out a building, and all of a sudden his rent went up 4 times and he couldn't understand. Dumbass had rented a warehouse that Ralph owned. So he couldn't afford to keep the rent there no more. So he had to leave that. And then he ended up working to go for Bob Snow. And I think maybe 3 years after he went for work for Bob Snow, he died. Yeah, got cancer and died.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So that's the whole Hitler story. I mean, it was just really, yeah, we had the parties, dude. I was there. I had to attend because it was part of my job. And they were just nothing more than what Ralph said, a bad excuse for a party. There was free food, free booze. Everybody's off of work. The second one was actually held. The first one was held to recognize the guys who restored the cars and did the murals. Hi. I'm that guy. I'm one of 3 guys that painted the murals, and I'll admit to it all day long. I don't care. They were one of the best jobs I ever painted. One of the most well done works I ever painted. So that was that. The one in 86, because that's right after I come to work there, right? 86. Yeah. Okay. So they hold that one, and that's to celebrate the guys putting the room together, doing the murals, doing the cars, blah blah blah. The one in no, that was in 85. 86, 87. Okay, but the one in 87, no, 86 and 88. So the one in 88 was held for the auction crew. And everybody got the joke. That was the only bathroom on the 5th floor. of the parking garage where the auto collection was. The only bathroom was in that room where those cars were. There was no public bathroom in the museum at the time. Okay.
So you had to go into where?
Yeah, you had to go into the room where the cars were to go back to the bathroom. And there was a men and a women's bathroom back there. And, that's what we used for bathrooms when we worked up there. You couldn't go all the way to the casino floor to go to the bathroom every time you had to go to the head. But so everybody knew what was in there, because people had been in there and people had been given tours of it and walked through there. Everybody knew what was in there. And at the auction, Ralph said, we're doing good. We're making money. Everybody's having a good time. We're going to have a party again. Let's have another party. And all those people who showed up, Lonnie Hammergren was there, and all your dignitaries were there, and blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, when it comes out in the news, they don't want to know from Ralph.
Yeah.
Oh, Ralph's a bad guy. Oh, he's a Hitler guy. And they turn this back on him, and I say boo on them because they knew that was not right. It was just a party. And I'll say that I don't know how many times, but evil? No, there was no evil intent. There was no celebration of Hitler. It was just all a gag.
They were cool cars.
Yeah, they were cool cars. And they were also, a lot of people, oh, look at all those murals. Well, those murals were within era of the cars.
Yeah.
Just like every other mural that was out in the main floor had something behind the car in front of it had something to do with the mural behind it in the early days. There was a facade in there that was a farm's, like a general store, right? Had a tractor and a truck and a guy sitting up at the stairs with a hayseed coming out of his mouth. The mannequin was actually Dick Schatzwell, the early manager of the auto collection. Ralph had an actual latex mannequin made of him and had the whole display to honor him for helping set up the collection. And it was Dick Schatzwell General Speed or something like that. And that was in the collection for years. But it was, backdrop to the cars, backdrop to this car, backdrop to that car. So what are you going to do? Put an American flag behind a war era Mercedes-Benz?
Yeah.
That don't make much sense.
No.
So,
Okay.
I don't know.
Thank you.
I think to me it was a bunch of people who got to the excuse, They just used it as an excuse to hit the man.
Yeah.
When all the Hitler stuff was coming out.
Yeah.
I used to get your company paycheck. I used to go into Arizona Charlie's to cash my paycheck. Okay. So one night I got my paycheck. I'm going to Charlie's. I go to cash my paycheck. The person at the window looks at me and looks at the check and goes over to the cage manager and goes like this and shows it to him and they're blah, blah, blah. And all I hear is the cage manager, because they're pointed at me. Unfortunately, yeah, we have to cash his check. Okay. So I'm like, really? Just give me my money. I got to go home, put my money in my pocket, go home, get to work the next day. I go into Richie's office and I tell Richie, I said, hey, Richie, man, things are getting really hot out in the world. I said, they didn't want to cash my check. They balked on it and got all, where was this at? Arizona Charlie's. Well, who do you think Ralph is friends with? The owners of Arizona Charlie's. So the story somehow made it to Ralph, and Ralph was not happy, and things got handled the way things get handled in Vegas. You did what? You're fired. You're fired, and you're fired. Go away. You don't work here no more. And over me? I clean up after the elephants, man. Who am I? But why should I get hassled when I go to cash my paycheck? I'm just another working guy, just like you behind the cage. Yeah. I work for a casino, right? Had a cash register cashier at the grocery store. My uniform had my badge on, Imperial Palace Auto Collection, because I was coming home from work. Walked off the register, wouldn't check me out. That was during that time. Walked off the cash register, refused to check me out. So even us grunts took the heat out in the public. Yeah. It was pretty ugly for a while, and over whatever it was over, I gave you my version of what I think and how it played out. And I think it was all very misrepresented.
Oh yeah.
But, Ralph had the parties. Okay. Ralph had this room. Okay. Yeah. That's actual facts. There's other people have pictures of it, not just me. The news got to tour the damn thing. They got to see all the murals, all the cars, everything that was in there. So but the reason they gave behind all of it, that he was this bad, evil Nazi guy, no, negative, not in my eyes anyway. And like I said, Ralph wanted me fired the first 6 months I worked there. So And I was there for 18 years. So you tell me, is that an evil guy? Okay, we're going to go to 1998. By my recollection and by my knowledge, Ralph's got his cancer, so cars are starting to get sold. By 98, we're selling cars from the museum. We're selling museum cars. This is before the auto collections opens up in 2000. By 98, we're selling cars.
Okay.
Okay, so you got some guys, the word's out, and there are players out there, big guys, big money. General William Lyons and his son came in and started buying them. They started buying the nice Mercedes, like the 500K, the Special Roadster. They bought the Duesenbergs. They bought several of the Duesenbergs. They came in and bought the G4 Mercedes, which is a dual tandem axle rear end car. It's this big, huge thing. It was a flop for what they had built it for, but it sure looks nice in parades.
Mm-hmm.
And so they jeweled them up after they failed in the field, and they turned them into jewels and they used them in parades. But there's like maybe real ones. Here we go again. Real G4s in the world. Maybe there's 3 or 4 real ones left. I know there's several. I know personally there are several that were created. I have the pictures of them being created. I know the man who created them. He's dead now. So we cannot bash him by talking about him. You don't get in any trouble. Nobody cares anymore. He built several of the I don't know what you want to call them, knockoffs, aftermarkets, wannabes. They're Frankensteins. So what happened to him? General William Lyons, he bought a good portion of the Mercedes. The bulk of the 770s, which was, I think maybe one of the Singelfeldens, the 31 Singelfeldens was sold separately, and maybe the Castagna, the 31 Castagna bodied was sold separately. But the big Pullmans and that, and those ones, the big, huge ones, they were all sold to one guy overseas. So I'm thinking this is like 2010, maybe 2011, no, 2009, 2010, maybe this happens. They sell them off.
So
One guy.
So a big cargo jet pulls up and.
Yep. They loaded them all on. It's one of those Russian guppies, you know, that big thing that they haul all their stuff around in. Yeah, they loaded. I don't know how they got them all in there. I've prepared cars for airplanes, and it's a real drag, especially the antique cars. There's a lot of work to be done to get just one car on an airplane.
But it was the fact that you wanted to sell them as a collection.
A collective, absolutely. That was always, once it was understood that they were going to be sold, the 770s, they wanted to market them as a collection. And I've got some memos that points directly to that conversation between Ralph and Don Williams about keeping them assembled, keeping them displayed together so they could be sold as one bunch, because they knew that's where it was going to happen. Because if you start trickling them out and breaking them up, then you'll end up with 5 or 6 left that you'll never get rid of.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to, because you've killed the market. Only so many guys want a 770 or can't afford one.
Especially with that history.
Well, yeah, whatever, right? So whatever the history or what, the money and the car and the guys who can own those, if he buys one and this guy buys one and he buys one, you're going to get left with 5 or 6 of them. And the guy, you've already blanketed the market. There's nobody out there to sell to. Yeah, he pretty much left me alone. I remember the last time I saw Ralph, it was out at his house, and it was not too long before he died. Not really too long before he died. And he was driving his car from the front of the house back to the back part of the house where his offices were. Why, I don't know. I guess he was leaving and he wanted to tell somebody something. But I was coming in with our car hauler to pick up a car out from the house, and he was driving, kind of leaving a little bit. And we just kind of passed each other, window to window, kind of. And he looked up at me and he smiled and he waved at me. He had his little fisherman's hat on. He used to wear one of those little fisherman's hats all the time, keep his bald head covered up. And he waved at me and smiled. And that was the last time I ever saw Ralph. Ralph never smiled at me in the entire time I ever worked for him. I rode in an elevator with him for 19 floors. It was like Laurel and Hardy standing there looking at the doors waiting for him to open. Never said a word to me. I never said a word to him. The doors opened. He walked out and went about his business. But the last day I saw him, he smiled and waved at me. So that's the only, I can only give you the impression of Ralph that he gave me. And I mean, he was a hard ass. Don't get no wrong about it. He was a hard ass. But
hey, when you make your daughter be a maid, you're a hard ass.
But a good hard ass.
So yeah,
it teaches you lessons. It teaches you lessons. And I couldn't have paid for the education I got. I learned how business got run real fast.
No.
Real fast. Yeah.
No,
fast.
The daughter runs a $100 million foundation founded by two simple people.
100 million? Oh, come on. Now you're being insulting. That's underestimating. We spent $350 million on cars.
Yeah.
Just on cars. I got the tapes. I can show you the run off the 10 key. Yeah, dude, we spent about 350 million, maybe give or take a million here or there on cars. I'm the Ingolstadt Foundation makes money off of the money it has, so it'll be perpetual. It'll never stop.
Really quick, in that interview with
Mike.
Thank you.
Mike Rowe. Yes, that's okay.
She says it like off cuff, where it was the Nevada Cancer Center. They were going to build this cancer center, but they weren't going to let her dictate how the money was going to be spent. So she takes it back. Okay. And then somewhere along the line, they were going to blackball her or something. And she goes, "We own the land."
Yep. So go ahead, whatever,
You want to build something, you got to come back to me.
And that builds off a couple of other interviews of Chris online, where she said, we give millions and millions of dollars to universities, to medical centers and all this. And all we're asking is a little accountability.
Yeah.
We're not wanting to dictate anything, but the days of handing you a check for millions and millions of dollars and then turning away and just hoping that you'll do the right thing are over. We want accountability. We want to know that we donated this money for a certain purpose, that purpose is being served by that money.
Yeah.
And she caught a lot of people that were doing just the opposite of that. Yep. And they protested too much. They caught themselves. They started crying the blues about, and the kids need to know. The kids will get their funding. Chris will figure out a way to make sure the kids get their money, whether it's through individual scholarships or whatever. She'll make sure the kids get their money. But you guys who are double dipping and skimming, you don't think she knows about the skim? You don't think Chris Ingolstadt knows about the skim?
Yeah. Well, it goes back. Stupid. I mean, it goes back to earlier where she was saying, I followed Dad. I was in all the meetings and everyone's like, "Oh, she's just a daughter. She's just, she's like, I just absorbed all of that." She was, nah.
Well, that's how you learn. You can't get to a position like that without on-the-job training.
No.
And she started her on-the-job training from the bottom.
Yeah.
So she knew every aspect of the business. And once you do that, then you can control things pretty good. You can get on top of them and stay on top of them. Yeah, right. I have a lot of respect for Chris. I think the way she's handled things for her family and her father and the legacy he tried to leave behind, I think she's done a really great job. And that's not to say that she's a saint or anything, because I'm sure we all have our bad side. But for me and my understanding of Chris and my dealings with her over the years, the last time I actually saw her was at an auction in 2001 at the hotel. She showed up with her kids and she saw me and she stopped me. She said, "I am so glad to see you here."
Wow.
And she had her two children with her and she said, "Say hello to Mr. Workman. He works for Grandpa." And she was very gracious and very humble and almost like making me something out, like I was something. And that, that was never my point. That was never my case, never my position. I'm just a guy, I'm happy to have a job.
Yeah.
Because I was feeding two kids. You got to feed kids. You got to have a job.
You got to clean up behind the elephant.
Yeah, you got that right.
All
Hey,
right.
Mark, I'm glad you had me on. I appreciate the interview. And maybe we'll do something in the future if this works out and you liked it and everybody likes it. Maybe we can give them some more information and get the
We will
story a
do
little cleared up.
All right.
All right, Mark.
I will talk to you later. Thank you.
Okay, take care, Mark. Bye-bye.
Bye.
There it is, folks. I got it in under 2 hours, 1 hour and 45 minutes. Very good. Okay. I really hope that you enjoyed this. There will be another video after this where John talks about how it all ended and the scam that took place with some of the cars. So I look forward to that. John, thank you for your time. Thank you for your information. I look forward to talking to you some more in the near future. Look for the links in the show notes. As always, like this podcast, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, leave me your comments and your questions down below. I am Mark Anthony. I am the Vegas Tourist, and I will see you on the next video.
It's getting dark, the show's